Hey friends! In this video, I'm going to show you how to pick up stitches along a vertical edge consisting of rows of knitting after you've bound off a project. You will likely need to do this when, say, you're working a cardigan and you need to make a buttonhole band with stitches going in the opposite direction of the piece to create a new edge, or when picking up sleeve stitches from an armhole or collar stitches from a neckline. You will usually, if not always, pick up stitches with the right side facing, and you'll be picking them up from right to left. So let's say this is a cardigan, and this is your neckline, and this is your hem. You're going to pick up stitches from the hem to the neck for the right front, and then you're going to pick up from the neck to the hem for the left front. Typically, when you know you're going to be picking up stitches along a vertical edge, you will allow a selvage. This is sort of like a seam allowance for those of you who are also familiar with sewing. And there are many ways to make a selvage, but I prefer to knit 2 stitches in stockinette at each end of every row. Here you can easily tell my selvage stitches apart from my pattern stitches. If I spread them apart, you'll see these little bars between them. These bars are the purl bumps of the stitches on the wrong side, and they represent each row you knitted. We're going to pick up stitches between these bars. In most knitted fabric, stitches are wider than they are tall, so we should account for this when we pick up stitches. Basically, if you pick up too few stitches, the fabric will bunch or pucker along the edge. If you pick up too many, it will flare out. And I'm willing to bet that neither of these scenarios are what you want. So I'm going to pick up 3 stitches for every 4 rows on this swatch. Let's get started. First, grab the needle that you're going to be using to pick up the stitches. You should also have your working yarn ready to go. I'm going to pick up stitches 2 stitches in from the side, just after my selvage stitches. So I'm going to spread the fabric apart a little bit right along that line. You're going to want to start picking up stitches as close to the cast on or bind off edge as possible. You want the new vertical edge to be flush with the previous horizontal edge. So I'm going to insert my needle 2 stitches in from the side and between the cast on edge and the first row's bar, right here. Now with your needle through the fabric, grab your working yarn and, leaving a long enough tail to weave in, wrap it around the needle as if you're knitting. Then draw the needle up through the fabric to create a new stitch. Your very first picked up stitch will be a little loose initially, so be careful not to elongate it too much, which can shorten the tail you left for weaving in. Now, insert the needle in between the next 2 bars to pick up a second stitch in the same way. As you go along, you'll see it's kind of like climbing a ladder. You just keep placing your needle above the next rung to go up the fabric. I'll repeat what I've been doing to pick up 1 more stitch. As I mentioned before, I am picking up 3 stitches for every 4 rows. So now that I have 3 stitches picked up, I'm going to skip the 4th row space, right here, and I'm going to resume picking up in the 5th space. So I'm going to skip that one and pick up right here. And it may look like this would create a big gap, but I promise it won't. And now I'll pick up stitches from the next 2 spaces to continue the pattern of 3 stitches for every 4 rows. I'll talk about how to calculate the ideal number of stitches per rows in just a couple minutes. Now I have 6 picked up stitches, and you can see they are all along the same vertical line. You want to be careful to make sure you're picking up along the same ladder, so to speak. If you're not consistent and you move over to a different ladder or column, your pickup will look messy. For example, up until now, I've been picking up 2 full stitches in from the side, but let's see what it would look like if I started picking up just 1.5 stitches in, right here. And what I've done is moved over to begin picking up from the center of one of my selvage stitches, rather than staying on the side of it. Alright, let's take a closer look. It might be a little hard to see, but there's an interruption in the pickup. Half of a stitch that should be on the wrong side as part of the selvage is now showing on the right side. Sometimes it's not overly obvious that you've done this, but if I resume picking up 2 full stitches in from the side, in the same column that I was picking up from before, it'll stand out a lot more. Let me show you what I mean. I'll just quickly pick up 2 more stitches in the original column. Okay. So now you can see that half stitch sticking out like a sore thumb. And this is why you want to keep that vertical line consistent, because this would really detract from the nice finished look I'm sure you'd like to have. So if you've done this and you need to go back, or you just want to make an adjustment in your pickup, simply drop the stitches you'd like to redo off the needle. I'm going to undo those 6 stitches so I can pick up the right way again. Let's talk about figuring out the ratio for picking up stitches, because it won't always be 3 stitches for every 4 rows. You can also generally pick up 2 stitches for every 3 rows or 5 stitches for every 7 rows by alternating between 3 of 4 and 2 of 3. It really depends on your gauge stitch to row ratio. For this pattern, my gauge was 21 stitches and 28 rows within 4 inches or 10 centimeters. If you divide 21 by 28, that's 0.75, which as a fraction is 3/4. So that's how I settled on 3 stitches for every 4 rows. If your resulting number is closer to 0.66, that's equal to 2/3, or 2 stitches for every 3 rows. A number in between 0.66 and 0.75 may mean the 5 stitches for every 7 row ratio would work best for you. Ultimately, you'll never want to pick up 1 stitch per row, unless your pattern has a specific reason for that. When you pick up along horizontal edges, you do pick up stitches at a 1-to-1 stitch ratio, because of course they are equal in width. If you ever find that it's difficult to pick up stitches from your edge, you can use a crochet hook to make things easier. And you would pick up the same way, by inserting the hook into the space between the selvage stitch and the main fabric, and then wrapping the yarn around the hook, and drawing up a loop. Place the loop on the needle without twisting it, and tighten the stitch. Once you've picked up a good amount of stitches, here's what your piece should be looking like. Your needle will be traveling up between your selvage and the main fabric, and the selvage should be folding back toward the wrong side. So when you're all done picking up your stitches, the inside will have this little bit of fabric that is now unseen from the right side. When it's time to weave in your ends, this edge will be a great place to do that for the tails of any yarns that were joined at the beginning of rows. Alright, let's keep going so we can talk about what to do when we reach the end of the pickup edge. So as I'm coming up on the end of the row, I want to make sure my last stitch is picked up from the very last space, right next to the other cast on or bind off edge. This will call for some attention as you're picking up the required number or multiple of stitches to make sure you don't pick up the total stitches before you reach this space. You can fudge the pickup ratio a little bit along the way to make sure of this, and sometimes that'll take a couple tries or undoing some stitches. But again, I want to pick up a stitch right here to make the new vertical edge flush with the previous horizontal edge. And there we have it. We are just about ready to begin working in the opposite direction, but stay tuned for 1 more minute. Now I want to briefly talk about making the edges of your picked up section look their best. When you pick up stitches from a finished fabric, your new stitches are inevitably within the borders of the fabric, causing a jog if you start knitting right after the pickup row. To avoid that, we can cast on an extra stitch at each end with the backward loop cast on. I use the working yarn to cast on at the end of the pickup row, just like this. Then I turn the work, slide my stitches down to the opposite end of my needle if needed, and use the tail I left when I began picking up to cast on at the beginning of the row. And this of course requires some planning to make sure you have the right multiple of stitches for your pattern. The 2 cast on stitches should be worked in pattern along with the picked up stitches, and we will rely on the nature of knitted fabric to curl inward and make the edges look continuous. Finally, your first row after picking up stitches will be a wrong side row. Alright, that's all I've got for you today. But if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to boop the like and subscribe buttons. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. And hey, if you're picking up stitches, there's a good chance you're picking them up for a button band. So check out my video about making 1 row buttonholes next. See you there.